Why does 7 a.m. feel like a weight pressing on your chest, while midnight feels like freedom? It's strange. The hours are equal on a clock, yet one carries dread, and the other feels alive with possibility. At night, people will stay awake even when they are exhausted, but in the morning, even after a full sleep, many wake up heavy. Not just tired, heavy. It's almost as if the day itself sits on your shoulders before it even begins. Some people describe mornings like stepping into cold water. The body resists, the mind delays. Nights, though, are like warm air. They invite you in, they stretch time. Why do we feel this contrast so sharply? Why does the same world appear cruel at sunrise and kind at midnight? That's the puzzle we're about to explore. If you ever stared at your ceiling in the morning, dragging yourself through thoughts of everything that has to be done, you're not alone. It's one of the most universal feelings of modern life. But here's the twist. It's not just about sleep cycles. It goes deeper. Philosophers have wrestled with morning for centuries. Psychologists have studied why the start of a day feels like such a steep climb. In this video, we will wander through ideas, through history, through psychology, and through reflections that might shift how you see your mornings. By the end, you may not have answers, but you will have something different. A set of lenses, ways to look at the heaviness of mornings and the lightness of nights that make the contrast itself more interesting. And the first lens might surprise you, because it's invisible and you carry it every single day. Think about the moment you wake up. Even before your feet touch the ground, your mind begins a silent calculation. What needs to be done today? Who needs me? What's waiting in my messages, my calendar, my responsibilities? Psychologists call this cognitive load, the mental weight of tasks, choices, and expectations. Mornings carry the full load in front of you, every possibility and every responsibility, all stacked up at once. It's like standing at the base of a mountain. At night, you're looking back down the slope. You've climbed what you've climbed and nothing more can be added. But in the morning, the entire mountain looms overhead. Picture a traveler waking to find a cart full of stones tied to their back. Each stone is small, but together they press down before a single step is taken. That's the morning, a weight of possibilities waiting to be hauled uphill. There is even a story of a king who woke each morning to a servant placing a heavy stone in his lap. The stone represented the day's burdens. He had to carry it until nightfall. It didn't matter if the tasks were light. The ritual reminded him that each morning begins with weight. And if that feels familiar, wait until we look at what philosophers saw in the same heaviness centuries ago. You can feel this idea in your own mornings. The alarm rings, and before your body even moves, your mind has already sprinted ahead. Deadlines, bills, conversations you've been avoiding, even small errands stack into something heavy. The weight isn't only about doing, it's about knowing you must. The day hasn't started, yet the burden is already in motion. That's why mornings can feel heavier than nights. At night, the opposite happens. You look back, and the mountain has already been climbed. Whether well or badly, it doesn't matter. The pressure is gone. Night is a closing parenthesis. Morning is an opening one. When the mind confronts possibility, it resists. When the mind reflects on finality, it relaxes. So mornings and nights aren't just times on a clock. They're two entirely different kinds of psychological space. And some of the greatest minds in history wrote about that very tension. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, famously wrote about struggling to get out of bed. Imagine the most powerful man in the world confessing that he, too, found mornings heavy. Why? Because the morning wasn't neutral. It was a battlefield between duty and desire. For the Stoics, the morning was the moment of confrontation. To rise meant to accept responsibility. To stay in bed meant to indulge desire. Nights, however, carried no such demand. Once the day's duties were complete, the Stoic could reflect, write, or simply be. It's striking that even ancient emperors felt what we feel, that the dawn confronts us with weight. Not just the weight of tasks, but the weight of being human. Think of a soldier standing at the gates of a city. Dawn signals the trumpet of duty. Night signals retreat. One is armor, one is release. There is even a parable of a monk who dreaded sunrise because it meant he must once again live in service. At night, he finally belonged to himself. That tension between duty and self still defines how mornings and nights feel. One binds us, the other releases us. And if duty explains the heaviness, biology deepens the mystery even more. When you think about it this way, the heaviness of morning isn't surprising at all. It's symbolic. Morning is obligation. It's the face we wear for the world, the responsibilities we step into. It's the place where society and expectation collide with private will. Night, in contrast, feels like choice. Even if you are exhausted, the hours after sunset feel like they belong to you. To stay awake, to read, to wander online. It's yours, not theirs. That's why the night carries a strange freedom. It feels lighter, even if it's filled with restlessness. The Stoics saw mornings as duty. We feel them as pressure. The similarity across centuries suggests it isn't just habit or culture. It's something more fundamental. Morning is where obligation begins. Night is where it ends. And in that simple rhythm, you can sense why we dread one and crave the other. But the story isn't only about psychology or philosophy. It's running through your body every single day. There is another layer here, biology itself. Our bodies don't treat morning and night the same. Hormones shift, brain chemistry tilts. When we wake, cortisol levels spike to push us into alertness. For some, that feels like clarity. For others, it feels like stress pressing down before thought even begins. Psychologists studying circadian rhythms notice something curious. Mood isn't distributed evenly across the day. Many people feel their sharpest focus later in the day, while mornings hold a dip in both mood and energy. It's not laziness, it's timing. Biology makes mornings heavier than nights. Think of it like an orchestra. In the morning, the instruments are tuning, discordant, unsettled. By evening, the symphony is in full swing. That's why conversations at midnight feel deep, creative, alive, while 7 a.m. can feel like static in the brain. Picture a city skyline at dawn, windows dark, streets empty, engines cold. The gears haven't turned yet. That's the body at morning, potential energy, not yet momentum. By night, the city glows, the noise hums, and life feels in motion. And if culture is any guide, we've always known this rhythm, which is why night has been painted in poetry, while morning is drilled into discipline. You can see this in culture. Night has always carried poetry. Songs, myths, and stories lean toward the romance of midnight. Lovers meet under stars, rebels gather in shadows, artists paint and write by candlelight. Morning, in contrast, belongs to institutions. Schools, factories, offices, all demand presence at dawn. Morning is the hour of order. Night is the hour of imagination. That cultural split reflects the biology. When the body relaxes and cortisol drops, the mind opens, ideas flow, inhibitions loosen. Night feels creative, even if the canvas is only a conversation with a friend. Meanwhile, the morning is rigid. A bell rings, a shift begins, a society marches in unison. For centuries, morning has symbolized structure, while night has symbolized rebellion. So the heaviness of morning isn't just in the mind or body, it's in the stories we've told ourselves for thousands of years. Night belongs to the dreamer, morning belongs to the worker, and yet there is always another side. But not for everyone. For some, mornings are the lightest parts of life, farmers who rise with the sun, spiritual seekers who find clarity in dawn rituals, parents who savor the silence before the household wakes. Even within psychology, morning people exist. Those whose rhythms peak early, who feel alive at sunrise and sluggish at midnight. For them, night is heavy, morning is light. This complicates the picture. It reminds us that heaviness and lightness aren't universal. They are perspectives shaped by biology, culture, and personal rhythm. A poet may write at 2 a.m., swearing by the magic of the night. A runner may rise at 5 a.m., swearing the morning is freedom, and both are right. So while we trace the weight of mornings across psychology, philosophy, and culture, we must also hold the nuance. Time feels different depending on who you are, and that nuance sets the stage for a paradox that ties it all together. Now we can begin to weave the threads together. On one level, mornings are heavy because of cognitive weight, the silent accounting of tasks and choices yet to come. On another, they are heavy because of duty, the confrontation between what the world expects and what we desire. And beneath all of it lies biology, the daily rise and fall of hormones that set the tone of our mood. At night, the picture flips. The weight of choices dissolves into memory. Duty is suspended. Biology tilts towards openness, creativity, and even rebellion. So the heaviness of morning versus the lightness of night isn't one story but three, layered like glass panes: cognitive, cultural, and biological. When they align, the contrast is sharp. When they conflict, we notice the exceptions. Those who thrive at dawn, those who wilt at dusk. This tension is what makes mornings and nights feel so alive. They aren't just times on a clock. They are mirrors of our inner lives, reflecting back who we are and how we live. And when you return to the beginning of the question, the paradox becomes clearer. Think back to the opening question. Why does 7 a.m. feel like a weight pressing down, while midnight feels like freedom? We've seen that mornings stack every possibility in front of us, while nights close the ledger. We've seen how duty grips the dawn, while freedom lingers after sunset. We've seen how biology itself tips the balance between heaviness and lightness. The clock is the same, but the experience is not. What you feel at those two poles of the day is not random. It's history, culture, psychology, and body woven together into a rhythm older than any of us. So maybe the heaviness isn't a flaw. Maybe it's part of the shape of life itself. The ancient Greeks told stories of gods who carried the sun across the sky. Each morning, the chariot was lifted with effort. Each night, it drifted back into darkness with ease. Perhaps we still live inside that myth. Morning will always feel heavier than night, not because we are weak, but because beginnings carry weight. Endings, by contrast, carry release. And so, every sunrise and sunset aren't just times of day, they are symbols, reminders that the burden and the freedom are inseparable. One cannot exist without the other. The day begins heavy, it ends light, and in between we live the tension.